The one thing that I didn't realize at the time that I found out after is when you're preparing to leave, that's the most dangerous time. In my mind, I'm just like, well, I'm just preparing. I just want to save money so I can just, get my kids out of there and just get our own place. But, I didn't know his mindset.
I don't even think any punishment could fit the crime. If we had the electric chair, I would want him to fry.
Welcome to my channel, everyone. Courtney Elise here, aka Court Crimes TV. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment. Also, hit that notification bell. That way you'll know every time I upload. Let's get into the video. Gregory Vincent Green's past/upbringing is a total mystery. The most you could find about him online is that he was born December 10th, 1966, and that he was brought up in a religious household. That's it. When he was in his early 20s, he would meet a young lady by the name of Tonya Clayton. Tonya did have 2 young children from a previous relationship, and in 1989, they decided to become a family. By 1991, Tonya would become pregnant. Not too much is known about their marriage. From the outside looking in, they seemed to be deeply in love with one another and happy. But Tonya would confide in a childhood friend about what was really going on in her marriage. Her friend Marilyn said that Tonya, who was 6 months pregnant at the time, called her and said Gregory started acting different. She didn't know if he was on drugs or something, but he switched and changed. He had become very controlling and violently aggressive towards her. She also said that Tonya was preparing to leave Gregory. She said Tonya was going to go to church and then go home to pack her clothes. That was the last time Marilyn heard from Tonya, because on July 14th, 1991, Gregory would snap and violently attack Tonya. Blinded with rage, Gregory would grab a steak knife from the kitchen and brutally stab Tonya a total of 10 times. Tonya was stabbed in the neck, cheek, chest, and back. After he was done brutally killing his wife that was 6 months pregnant, he calmly dialed 911 and told officers what he had done. Once police arrived at the house, Gregory would let them in and coldly say, "I stabbed her. She's in the kitchen." He also showed them where he stashed the murder weapon, which was in the refrigerator. He would be arrested and in 1992 charged with second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 15 to 20 years in prison. While in prison, he stayed out of trouble for the most part. He had one altercation which was over the television, but other than that, his prison record was virtually clean. He went up for parole 4 times and was denied each time. Why? Because even though he was a model prisoner, so to say, he showed absolutely no remorse or empathy for the murder. In fact, he had the audacity to shift the blame on Tonya for his actions.
I was totally just numb.
We talked on the phone to Monica Johnson. It was her cousin, Tonya Green, who Gregory Green murdered in 1991. Tanya's oldest daughter, Danielle, hid in a closet. Her youngest, Bridget, had cerebral palsy and was not injured. But Tonya was pregnant with Green's baby when he stabbed her to death.
The last stab when they said went through the baby's heart, and that's what actually killed the baby.
The family was devastated a second time when Green was only sentenced to 15 years in prison.
I hope he never sees daylight again.
The parole board was like, okay, since you clearly don't care about killing your wife and unborn child, you're going to continue to sit behind bars. Meanwhile, his friends, family members, and even some correction officers wrote letters to the parole board advocating for his release. They insisted that Gregory was remorseful and had become closer to God. Fred Harris, who is a pastor and civil rights activist, was pushing and writing letters to the parole board on Gregory's behalf. On August 17, 2005, he wrote, "Gregory and I were friends before his mishap and he was incarcerated. I feel he has paid for his unfortunate lack of self-control and the damage he has caused as much as possible and is sorry. This will not restore the lives that were taken. He will carry that with him for the rest of his life." In 2006, he wrote again, saying, "I've noticed a great deal of growth and his understanding has matured quite a bit, as well as his processing skills. If he was to be released, he would be welcomed as a part of our church community, and whatever we could do to help him adjust, we would."
Apostle Fred Harris, seen here at the funeral, back to the camera and the gray hair, not only knew Green, but visited him in prison and even wrote support letters. In an August 2005 letter to the parole board, he said, quote, "Gregory and I were friends before his mishap, and he was incarcerated. I feel he has paid for his unfortunate lack of self-control and the damage he has caused as much as possible and is sorry. This will not restore the lives that were taken. He will carry that with him for the rest of his life." Then the next year he wrote, quote, "While interacting with Gregory, I have noticed a great deal of growth and his understanding has matured quite a bit," end quote.
His parents also wrote in 2006, "We believe Gregory is very sorry for what he did and has gained insight into his behaviors. He has worked hard in prison and he continues to make a positive adjustment." Mind you, these people are going hard for a man who brutally stabbed his pregnant ex-wife. The pastor had the nerve to say that the murder was just a mishap, as if he didn't mean to kill his wife. Gregory was denied parole 4 times, twice in 2004 and twice in 2006, because he was showing no signs of remorse, but yet they wanted him free because they feel he's changed. Okay. Well, with the help of his family and pastor pushing for his release, their wishes were finally granted. In 2008, after being denied 4 times previously, he was granted parole. While out of prison, he was doing good. He even went to Pastor Harris's church, Church of the Risen Christ Ministries International. And while attending, he started to really connect with Pastor Harris's daughter, Faith Harris. Faith, just like Tonya, ironically had 2 children from a previous marriage, 19-year-old Chadney Allen Jr. and 17-year-old Kara Allen. By 2010, the two would be married and welcome 2 daughters, Coy and Callie. Like his first marriage, in the beginning, everything seemed to be going great, but on October 11, 2013, Faith had filed for a divorce. Gregory was becoming very abusive and acting erratic. She claimed he would get belligerent, kicking things and threatening to attack her. On one occasion, she claimed he told her things are going to get ugly if she didn't leave the house. She also said that one day he even kicked the couch one of their babies was sleeping on. She tried to get a PPO, a personal protection order, but was denied, citing insufficient allegations.
The mother of 4 filed this report back in February of 2013, stating, "He is trying to make me leave our home. We're filing for divorce. He's being belligerent, kicking things. He kicked the couch while the baby was sleeping on it, just kicking things, threatening me and saying if I don't leave, things are going to get ugly. Jumped at me like he was going to attack." This went on for 4 hours. The same day, Faith requested a personal protection order, but it was denied because of insufficient allegations. Part of the reason for the denial? Police had not been called to the home in the past 3 months, and she had not filed a complaint in the past 3 months.
Which is ridiculous, because this man murdered his first wife. He is a convicted murderer, and the court denied her protection? That's crazy. Well, I guess they decided to work things out, because she ended up staying with him for another 3 years. But on August 11, 2016, she would once again find herself filing for a divorce. Their marriage was just a complete mess, and she was done. On September 22, 2016, Gregory would dial 911 at around 1:15 a.m. When police arrived to the house, Gregory let them in, and they were met with a gruesome scene. In the basement, tied up and gravely wounded, they would find Faith. She had been shot in the foot, and her face had been slashed with a box cutter. Also in the basement were the bodies of 19-year-old Chadney Allen Jr. and Kara Allen. With Faith injured and bound, Gregory made her watch him shoot her children point blank. Their 2 younger daughters weren't off limits either. He rigged the car with duct tape on the muffler and a tube. He got both of the little girls, aged 5 and 4, and sat them in the running car as it filled with carbon monoxide. Once they were dead, he brought them back in the house and laid them in the bed. The little 4-year-old girl had just celebrated her birthday the day before. There were still decorations hanging up from her party in the driveway.
4 children murdered in cold blood inside their home. You take a look over in the gazebo there, you can see some sheets hanging and some lettering. That says happy birthday because there was a party here just a couple of days ago for one of the children. They died inside this car pulled into the driveway, rigged up with a hose for exhaust fumes to feed inside. We're told by police after the children died, their bodies returned to their beds, allegedly by their father. The other 2 children, 17-year-old Kara and 19-year-old Chadney Allen, were Faith's children with another man. Police found their bodies bound in pools of blood, shot execution style.
Gregory Green would be arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count each of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, torture, unlawful imprisonment, felonious assault as a felon in possession, and felony firearm. Faith, while in a wheelchair, was there as he was charged with the murders of her 4 children. She didn't speak, but her presence was known. A GoFundMe was created, and they raised $50,000 for all 4 of the children's funeral. More than 1,000 people filled the Detroit First Church of Nazarene. The service lasted for about 2 hours.
Grieving family, friends, and even strangers packed the Detroit First Church of the Nazarene in Farmington Hills today to say goodbye to 19-year-old Chadney and 17-year-old Kara Allen, 5-year-old Coy, and 4-year-old Kaylee Green. Friend Deandra Smith read a poem.
When you exhale and still can't breathe, when your worst nightmare isn't a dream, feel his comfort surrounding thee. I pray to God to grant you peace.
Faith Green, who was brutally tortured and her face cut up and forced to watch her children's execution, sat in the front row in a wheelchair, all in black, including a veil, asked Pastor Ben Walls to read her farewell to her children.
My dear babies, I love you all. You all were unique in your own way. I always encouraged each of you to be your own person, to be a leader and not a follower, and to stand up for what's right. In Faith, you were successful.
Gregory Green was sentenced to 45 to 100 years in prison, plus 6 to 10 years for additional charges. He will be eligible for release when he's 97. Faith would speak at the sentencing. She would say, "Sometimes I dream of the night all of this happened and wake up screaming and sweating, thinking that I can save my children somehow. Then I realize that the nightmare is actually reality and that my children are really gone. I try to find the strength to start my day somehow. There's no punishment that fits the crime. Not even torture or death would do justice. Your justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity."
Nothing or no one, sure as hell not you, can break me or break my bond with them. But while I stand up here trembling with fear, I put on my bravest face to be in the same room with the man who murdered all 4 of my children. 2 of them violently in front of me with a gun, Chadney and Kara. And he killed my other 2 babies, Coy and Kaylee, with a hose that ran from the tailpipe of his car to where they were innocently sleeping. As if that wasn't enough, let me tell you about some of the devastation that it has actually done to me and my family. My short-term memory is gone. Doctors tell me it's my brain protecting me from the memories of my children being shot in their heads right in front of me while I was gagged, duct-taped, and zip-tied. Every time I find strength to get out of bed, as soon as I walk, I'm in extreme pain, sharp pain, from where he shot me in my foot. They don't know if I'll ever walk again without pain. Think about that for a second. Never being able to again to walk without pain. My doctors say I have post-traumatic stress disorder. That's where the migraines and nightmares come from. Sometimes I dream of the night all this happened and wake up screaming and sweating, thinking that I can save my children somehow. Then I realize that the nightmare is actually reality and my children are really gone, and I try to find the strength to start my day somehow. Other times, there's just crazy nightmares that I wake up from in fear and try to understand them, but I'm told that they all link back to this horrific experience I have had. I can't think of the last time I really rested without medication. I can still feel the zip ties around my wrist, and it triggers horrible memories of that night. There's times I find myself drifting off into thought and then realize I'm not thinking of anything. I'm empty. I'm lost, not really knowing what to do with myself, just existing day to day. I miss my children so much that words will never be able to explain. All I ever wanted to be was a mother, a wife, have a happy family, raise my children to be productive members of society, and be happy. The reality I face now is this will never happen for me. Time will never heal this wound. I will always be empty. A part of me will always be missing.
Gregory would speak in court as well. He would say, first of all, it's in God's hands. Only He can judge. You know, I do regret and I'm sorry for what has happened. However, all I ever wanted was a God-fearing woman to help me, that would support me and be faithful no matter what. You see, he pretty much blamed her for what happened, just like he did with Tonya. He took no responsibility, no accountability for his actions. He blamed his wife. And this is the man everyone was rallying around, claiming he had changed. It's ridiculous he had the nerve to insinuate that she didn't help him. I'm pretty sure when she first married him, I can bet you she faced a lot of criticism associating herself with him, but she stood by him. In an interview, Faith talks about how she found out leaving a marriage is the most dangerous time.
The one thing that I didn't realize at the time that I found out after is when you're preparing to leave, that's the most dangerous time, which I knew I didn't even know, you know. And in my mind, I'm just like, well, I'm just preparing. I just want to save money so I can just, you know, get my kids out of there and just get our own place. But, you know, I didn't know his mindset.
This whole story is so sad because this all could have been prevented. This man did not show not an ounce of remorse for the first brutal murder he committed. And the parole board saw this. That's why they kept denying him over and over and over again. But I guess because he was a quote unquote model inmate and he was getting all these letters of recommendation of him being released, people were advocating so hard for him to be released, they changed their mind. I looked online to see if the pastor ever made a comment about this, because this is the same man who said that the first murder was a mishap. You know, so much so as to say Gregory didn't mean to do this. It was an accident. You know, he wasn't in his right mind. He wasn't in his right mind. But I have not seen a comment. This man advocated for Gregory to be released, only for Gregory to turn around and brutally torture his daughter and brutally execute his 4 grandchildren. It's so sad what happened to this family, knowing this could have been prevented. Rest in peace to Chadney, Kara, Coy, and Callie.